Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. So today I actually wanted to do a little twin flame video. I'm sorry if I'm creating a lot of twin flame content and you need something else. However, I really do this based on what I'm inspired to do in the moment, and really what I feel like the community really needs. However, if you have a particular question about Kundalini awakenings or spiritual awakenings specifically that you would like me to address, feel free to leave me a comment and I'd be happy to do a video on that. So today I actually wanted to do a little video on in the twin flame dynamic. We really hear a lot that just keep going, don't pay really attention to union. This is a natural and organic process, and you will come into union with your twin in time. And so I really wanted to do a little video on whether or not this is actually true. And if it is, what is the core ingredient that you really need to pay attention to in order for union to still occur? Now, there is one core and inherent flaw with this statement that, the union process is natural and organic. And that is that this statement almost seems to suggest that you are not required actively to do any work on your twin flame journey in order for union to occur. Now, if that is you, if you believe that that is true, then you might want to think that again. Now, the natural and organic part of the statement is true. However, it does still require for you to put in some effort. And then, yes, you cannot control the timing of union per se. You can only control your effort on this journey. So that is something to pay attention to. But really, if you are somebody that feels like no work is required and you will come into union, I want you to really ask yourself a couple of questions. And that is, since you were activated on this journey, if you have been taking the no particular active effort approach on this journey, which is, everything's just going to kind of happen on its own, I'm not required to do anything. If that has been you so far, I want you to ask yourself, what shifts and changes have you seen on your twin flame journey? That being with your own personal growth, your own transformation, your inner transformation, and also the transformation working towards union. What shifts and changes have you been able to identify? If the answer is none or almost next to nothing, then you might want to rethink your approach to union. That being that, I don't need to do any work and this will just kind of happen naturally and organically. Rethink that. And, depending on how much time has really gone by since you were activated on this journey, if it's been a few weeks, a few months, you may not feel this as hard. But if a few years have gone by, this may really bother you when you think about not being able to visibly see any changes, and that being your twin approaching you, that being any changes in you on your inner transformational journey. Because remember, the twin flame journey is less about uniting with your twin and more about your own inner transformation and self-mastery. So ask yourself that, and if the answer is no, then you really need to rethink this approach to union. Now, if you are a twin that is focused on your inner work, your healing journey, doing the meditation, and you have a daily meditation practice that you are implementing on a daily basis, and your view is that, I can't really control the timing, I can only control my effort, and the rest will happen naturally and organically, then the statement is absolutely correct, because you are applying the core ingredient here, which is your effort that needs to go in on this journey in order for union to occur. And now, why do I say that? Well, the truth is, this journey can really be broken down into 4 core phases. And that is your activation, which is when you actually come into, meeting with your twin, either physically or energetically, and get activated onto the journey. And when that happens, you enter what we call your bubble love phase. And so as that happens, you really get all this love for your twin. You understand that they're the one for you. And, here, this is where we really learn that, this is my person and this is who I want to be with. Now, that very quickly, the activation and bubble love phase shifts to what we call your runner and chaser dynamic, which is basically where the twins kind of are no longer, coming together the way they did in the bubble love phase. And it's becoming a bit awkward for really the masculine energy that begins to run in this connection. And then the chaser, seeking that what they experienced in the bubble love phase, is now chasing their twin. And so this goes on for a very long time. So basically, these two phases keep twins stuck and, keeps them here until they realize, wait, maybe I need to kind of step away because I am not happy with this runner chaser dynamic. And really, it's the feminine energy that needs to go through that process because the runner is just too busy running. And then we switch into the third phase, which is really your separation phase. Now, this is a really long time that people spend here. And if you are believing that, I'm just going to be not in communication with my twin and everything else will happen organically, well, we're again missing the key ingredient, which is meditation and the inner work. Really, it is when the feminine energy begins to take that energy from the outside, going inward. So really detaching from the outside world and bringing that energy home to herself or himself, being the feminine energy. Because remember, gender does not matter in the twin flame connection. The feminine energy is basically the one that is the chaser in the dynamic. So really, you need to be able to take that all of that attention from the outside of your twin and really bring it home to your own self. And that's when the magic begins to happen on this journey. If you are a twin that is not doing that on this journey, then you will stay stuck in this phase and not be able to get to your fourth stage, which is the stage of union. Because really, the energy work that you have to do on this journey can only happen when you do the inner work. And that is what leads and allows Kundalini the ability to move through your chakra system and get to the seventh chakra, which is really where Kundalini, aka Shakti Ma, is headed to unite with Shiva. So think about that again. If your approach to union is not allowing any changes, any transformation, you want to rethink your process. So just to kind of summarize what we talked about here, if you believe that the, process to union is natural and organic, but you are still doing the inner work, then this statement is absolutely true because we cannot control the timing of union. That is going to happen in its own time. But the energetic shifts and changes that need to happen with the feminine energy, and it can be only done with the inner work via meditation. And so as long as you're doing that, then the statement is true and you are on the right path. And a good sign for you to be able to really identify that is take a look at all that you have been through on the journey. And if you can see the significant changes, then you are truly on the right path. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. God bless.